Hey, Tim Frisch with a Frisch Perspective, bringing you analysis, reviews, and fun from a Christian nerd's point of view. Well, today I'm going to be talking about a restaurant chain that has gotten into yet another controversy, and that is Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, I could eat there 7 times a day.
What is it about Chick-fil-A that causes so much controversy? Well, it has a lot to do with them being known for their Christian values. And so yet again, because of who they are and what they stand for, they've gotten into more controversy. And specifically, the controversy recently is that people are mad at Chick-fil-A because they stopped giving to certain charities like Salvation Army and Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which are charities that have been known for their anti-LGBTQ stances. And so there's some backlash now. People feel like Chick-fil-A has betrayed them by not supporting these charities. Of course, many people admire Chick-fil-A because of kind of their countercultural stance, and that they're kind of known for just being who they are as a Christian run or a Christian value type organization. And so people have been disappointed and feel betrayed in some way, and kind of angry that Chick-fil-A has made this decision. So I've read some articles on this, and it's interesting because I think the articles that I've read have shown kind of the two different ways of looking at this. And one article I read really made it sound like Chick-fil-A did cave into social pressure and made the decision based on the pressure of the LGBTQ community. But I think what plays into that some is that the LGBTQ community has actually even taken some credit for it and said it's kind of a victory for them. And we know that Chick-fil-A has faced pressure because of their stances. But another article that I read made it sound like it was other reasons. One reason would be that they had a contract with certain charities and that ran out, and it was just a time where they could reconfigure and make some changes, and they decided to go in a different direction and do their charity giving in a way that's more localized. So there could have been reasons other than just caving into social pressure, and so some articles make it look like Chick-fil-A really compromised. Others are coming to the defense of Chick-fil-A. And so what are my thoughts on all this? What do I think about, Chick-fil-A and their decision to change course? Well, one thing I would say off the bat is even when I looked at the Salvation Army website, they were pretty clear and careful to say that they're still serving people in the LGBTQ community. They're not in any way trying to discriminate against those people. So I think there's just a general sense in our culture that we have to be accommodating. And so I don't know that Chick-fil-A not supporting, for example, the Salvation Army was some sort of a huge compromise. The first thing I would say in response to this really would be that we need to be very careful about being quick to judge. I think the Bible teaches that we really need to make sure that before we judge a matter, we really understand all of the facts at hand. And so we have to be careful about being quick to judge because we don't really know all their reasons. And we also have to be careful not to read into why they did what they did. And we have to make sure that we treat others the way that we want to be treated. Have you ever made a decision that to some people looked like you made it for one reason, but deep down you made it for another reason? And so I think we need to make sure that we treat the people at Chick-fil-A with that grace and with that attitude that God wants us to have, that we're not quick to judge. Of course, we need to be careful about compromise, and so that leads to another thought that I had, that there is definitely social pressure in our culture. I do think it's important that we hold on to our convictions as Christians, and we do need to be careful about compromise. We want to make sure that we're doing what God calls us to do, and that we're being reflective of what He wants us to be. There's no doubt about it. But it is not an obligation for us to intentionally offend people in our culture. We need to make sure we don't compromise, but we don't have to intentionally offend. And I wonder, in a way, if maybe sometimes we're just bothered because we kind of like the fact that an organization like Chick-fil-A is a thorn in the side of certain groups. And so when they change how they do something, we feel like, oh, they're not going to have that edge that they had before, and they're not going to offend in the way that they offended before. I don't think it's an obligation for Chick-fil-A to have to offend people. But again, we just need to watch long-term what an organization like Chick-fil-A does and if they're continuing to hold to their Christian values. I understand people's concern, but I think we need to look at the big picture. And are they still reflecting Christian values in how they run their organization and in the decisions they make? Or do we see something changing? But regardless, in my opinion, they don't have to be Christian in order to sell chicken, and they don't have to do that in a Christian way. You can still buy a chicken even if it's not Christian chicken. As a matter of fact, when you go to McDonald's or Burger King, those are not Christian organizations, and yet I still go there. But I understand people's concern. And again, Chick-fil-A is known for being countercultural. I mean, they're telling us not to eat beef. I mean, that's really cutting edge. But no, I understand where people are coming from with this. And Chick-fil-A, of course, they have our admiration in many ways. But I think we need to be very careful about reading into their reasons or expecting them to have to do things that offend culture in certain ways. It's really between them and God if they're Christians. So those are some of my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think about this issue and other issues like this. And thank you so much for listening to what I have to say from a First Perspective.